Very good. It's 1:30, and we will begin our liquor control meeting for today. We have one member joining by phone, and we might possibly have two, so we'll just have to play that by ear. But we'll begin with agenda item number 1, approved minutes of the October 19th, 2022 regular meeting. Hopefully everyone's had that ahead of time, but if there are any changes or corrections, we will accept a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Very good. Number 2, review liquor applications, and 2A is U Golf LLC doing business as Dogleg North Lounge and Indoor Golf to be located at 2700 Broadway, Class I Entertainment. Steve, we'll get us started. Steve.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. And just one addition to the agenda under other items. We did receive back the background check from Summit, and although we won't take any action today, I think it's worthy of a discussion. So we'll add that to the end. So with the Dogleg North, they had originally applied for a Class I entertainment license, and we've done the background check, and it came back very, very clean. After further discussions with the applicants, they've requested that we change that to a C and W license. CW is beer and wine, which is the same thing that the I Entertainment is. The difference are that with the I Entertainment, they're required to sell 65% food and or the cost to play the game. So, so that they have provisions in there to kind of keep it from being just a straight bar or something like that. With the CW, they're no longer required to sell food. And the other item that it does allow them to do, the I Entertainment does not allow them to have any gaming, any charitable gaming, and they wanted to be able to have that as an opportunity. And so with the CW, they can have the charitable gaming. Otherwise, both of them allow the physical bar. And so the CW does cost more, and so they're willing to pay that additional cost to get the appropriate type of license. I don't know if any questions from the board?
Do we have any comments or questions about, and I guess from the background check, there were no concerns by either part of that, is that correct?
That's correct. The background check was very, very clean. This location is, if you know where Hornbachers is on North Broadway, this is at the far end of that strip mall, kind of next to the North Library up there, and so that's an area that they feel is underserved for North Fargo, an entertainment facility that also allows them to have an adult beverage.
Any
Hey,
other
Steve,
comments or
this is John.
questions? Otherwise,
Yeah, Steve, this is
yes, go ahead.
John Stibbe here. I've just got one question, which is kind of off subject, but the golf courses, is that the I license? Is that what they have?
The golf courses have an FA Golf license, so it's
okay.
It's specific that with the golf course it has to be a minimum of 9 holes, and it has to be a USGA approved golf course. So it can't be like a putt and go or something like that.
Yep. I don't have my liquor control book with me today, so I couldn't remember the difference license. So thank you.
You bet. Thank you, John. Any other comments or questions?
Oh, yes.
Go ahead.
Steve, could you repeat it? There's changing a request from an I Entertainment to what license?
It's a beer and wine, so it's a C. C is the beer, and wine is W. So
And
C.
C's are capped.
There's a cap of 10, I believe, and at this point, I think we had 7
Okay.
issued. And really, when I talked to them about what their business plan was, this really is a better fit for them. Then they're not worried about. They're still planning on having food, limited food sales, have a limited class license, but to meet that 65% was going to be difficult, and so this is a much better fit for them.
Okay, and one last question. What's the approximate capacity?
Of the facility,
Yeah, how many, people could be in there
I
drinking
think
beer?
they're going to have 4 bays. Is that correct? So they're going to have 4 golfing bays. And if if you think of maybe like a foursome or something going up, it's the golf simulators, right? And so I don't know the capacity of the building itself, but
Well, the bar area, how many people would this serve? I guess my question is, could it turn into a bar, or instead of really an entertainment place?
Well, most of the area that they're of the footprint of the building is going to be those golf bays.
Okay.
And so the bar area itself is probably going to have limited seating. The concept is that you get a beverage and bring it back to your golf
Sure.
bay and golf. Could it change? Could they take out the golf bays and make it a beer and wine bar? I guess that's certainly a possibility. I know that that's not their intent. There are a couple of guys, and they are here if you'd like to hear from them. But their background is in golfing and that type of thing, and they're trying to find a way to provide another entertainment facility up in North Fargo.
Right.
But the other,
My only, it sounds fine. My only concern is that, people try to find a loophole and do an entertainment license, and their real intent is to,
Well, and by switching to the CW, if they decided to go down that path, then they would be able to do that, and they're not trying to, fall under a false pretense or something
Right.
like that.
but Steve, the other thing that would happen if they changed their business model, they would have to come back and change their license because we're approving what they're saying now. Do you know what, if that happened, let's say that they started turning it into a bar, this license would not, our approval would not cover that, correct?
Well, with the change of the license classification to a CW, they would be able to do, it would be a beer and wine bar. They wouldn't be able to do spirits, though. So if they wanted to go to a full bar, they would have to come back and get a different license class that would offer the spirits.
And Bob's point is true. That has happened in the past where people have tried to do that. And so part of our job is to make sure that we keep track of this. And if that happens, make sure that we're on top of that. And so that's what the staff and that's what we're supposed to be doing. So that's a good question. Okay.
Just to clarify, there's no food requirement with this?
Not with a CW, but it's not their intention to operate that way. For instance, Cowboy Jack's on Broadway has no food requirement, but they sell a lot of food, right? So there are some people that get a license that makes it so they're not under that pressure to meet an arbitrary goal. And so I think it's better in the long run that they get the right classification of license than something that doesn't allow them to, do exactly what it is that they want to be doing.
And this is a little bit off topic, but it's kind of interesting. Insurance companies now, if you don't serve food at your bar, your insurance rates are multiple times higher than they used to be. And so maybe somebody from the industry wants to talk about that, but they've gone up. So it's kind of interesting. We've obviously been trying to encourage food service along with our bars. And so the insurance industry is kind of doing some of our work, kind of what we've been talking about. So I don't know if you're aware of that, but anyway, that's a little bit off topic. So I apologize for that. All right. Any other comments or questions? And I don't know if the owners are welcome to get up and talk if they want to, but they don't have to. But I think it's a great thing. And actually, I work out right next door, so I was wondering what was going to go on in that location, and now I know. So that'll be a good thing.
You have to bring your golf
There
clubs
goes
with
your
you.
work week.
Well, no. If you watch me golf, you would know that is not a concern. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Very good. Thank you. And now we're moving on to 2B, Four Star Group doing business as Himalayan Yak to be located at 1109 38th Street South, Class GH. Steve.
So the GH is a beer and wine license. It does not allow the bar. and the food sales must exceed the alcohol sales. This is the second location for Hemley and Yak. They've done really well in their first location, and so they're looking to expand. And again, we've done the background check, and that came back without any concerns.
Very good. Do we have any questions about that? And so basically, we haven't had any, their track record has been good at their existing location, and the background check came back clean.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Are we ready for a motion?
Move to approve.
We have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Very good. And now we'll move on to number 3, the police department reports. 3A is a general report, and 3B is a video from October 1st with activity. Chief.
Good afternoon. Everyone should have received the printout from the last 30 days. Nothing necessarily sticking out, a couple of over-intoxication issues in a couple of different locations. So absent any specific questions, that's all I have kind of for the 30-day report. We are working on putting together a year-end comparable, breaking some of these things down, identifying maybe the establishments where we're seeing the most of over-intoxication and some of the other issues that we discussed at our brown bag, and kind of in preparation for some of the other items that we'd like to discuss.
I just wanted to say real quick, thank you for sending that to us ahead of time so we can read the reports from the activity from the preceding month. So thank you. I think we all appreciate being able to go through that ahead of time. So thank you for that. And I guess my question is would you say overall things do you have good cooperation from your, because one of my concerns is are the bar owners reporting issues and things like that?
I think overall we have very good cooperation. There's maybe an instance or two in which we have an employee who may be a little reticent to provide the information because they are somehow involved in the altercation. But I think along with that data, the PowerPoint, if you will, you've seen similar presentations that we'll be able to put forward on a monthly basis with that too. I think will be very helpful for identifying, what are the establishments where we're seeing the most issues and what are those issues to kind of just further our discussion on some of the licensing types of concerns that we have. But across the board, I think we get very good cooperation. A vast majority of our licensed establishments operate without issue. Some of them were there more often than others by virtue of proximity. So we understand that as well as we kind of look into all of this data and try and bring forward some reasonable requests to the board to take action when needed.
Any other questions from anyone? Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment on the over-serving instances that occurred, and it makes me think that maybe some of the servers or whomever are serving these folks 6 to 8 shots and drinks in an 1.5 to 2 hour time span should probably retake their server training. That I found to be disturbing. So.
And I don't disagree with that. There's a couple of those instances in there. But again, going towards our conversation at the brown bag, I think we need those new alternatives to effectively deal with that issue.
Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, Chief, you have a video for us, or is that ready, or is that something later?
Nope, that's
Okay, thank you.
So I think Kay asked for this, right? Okay. This is from October 1st. Okay.
All I did was not try to prevent process.
So that's just kind of a little bit of an overview of an October 1st bar closing. We did another operation similar to that over Halloween weekend as well. We had some great assistance and cooperation from North Dakota Highway Patrol and Cass County Sheriff in those additional saturations. I think the key piece, in addition to some of the other arrests, is that in both of those operations, in a 5-hour time frame, each time we had 8 DUIs. So again, I think indicative of a lot of over-serving, over-intoxication as people are leaving some of those establishments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
And so we'll move on to number 4, a memo for recommending ordinance changes. And there's a couple, and we received those today, and so we'll just we'll discuss them today. I guess the feeling is we'll have this, since it kind of came today, but we'll have a potential action on it at our next meeting, but we'll have some discussion today. Go ahead, Chief.
Sure. That's perfectly fine. I had intended on getting this to you a little sooner, but since the brown bag time got away a little bit, but this is a couple of additional things that we've discussed in some of our presentations and at our brown bag meeting. One request is that all licensees and managers submit to annual criminal background checks prior to renewal of the establishment's license. Current ordinance requires a background check upon application only. No additional checks are conducted thereafter, ensuring the licensee is still deemed fit by the city to hold the license and has not committed any new offenses that would have a direct bearing on the applicant's or manager's ability to serve alcoholic beverage pursuant to Article 2515 of the Fargo Municipal Code and the associated license application qualification guidelines. To assist with efficient processing of background checks, because this would be quite an increase, but certainly doable, the development of a timeline process is suggested. So future renewal deadlines are divided over the span of 6 months. So as the board considers this, just a suggestion, this is collective input from myself, Steve Sprague, and our city attorney, Nancy Morse, as to how that might be done. And then the second request is to add some ordinance language that would require the licensee to notify the city within a prescribed time frame of any change to the manager of a licensed liquor establishment. The recommended time frame to report this to the city auditor is 3 business days. Subsequent to notice, the licensee would have a prescribed time frame in which they must ensure the new or temporary manager's background information is submitted to the city auditor for a criminal background check. This recommended time frame is an additional 10 business days or prior to hiring a new manager if no temporary manager is in place. The city would complete the background within 30 days of receiving the background information and report the findings to the Liquor Control Board. In the interim, the licensee would be allowed to operate with the temporary manager. These are for establishments that, in fact, have a manager on site. It's also recommended that penalties be applied to ensure compliance with this potential new requirement. Again, it's just a collective option for you to consider. Recommended penalties of a $500 fine for failure to report a manager change or a failure to provide the background information on a new manager within the set time frame. In the event the required information is not provided within 21 days from notice of failure and the temporary manager is still in place, the recommendation is that the liquor license be suspended until the information is completed. This change will close an existing gap in which licensees hire unvetted managers to run an establishment without any oversight of their fitness to serve in that capacity, to include their ability to serve alcoholic beverages in conformity with the license application qualification guidelines. If approved by the board and recommended to the commission for the city attorney to draft language, the second item could be implemented within 30 days to allow proper notice. Item 1, the renewal process would likely be implemented with the next renewal period in June of 2023, allowing sufficient time to create administrative efficiencies, give proper notice, and plan for the implementation. Along with that, I know that Steve has discussed creating an electronic application system that would be a lot more efficient than some of the paper methods that we use now to help facilitate the timeline. I believe, but also collectively believe, that these recommended changes would assist me in my role pursuant to City Ordinance 25-1505, the investigation of the application, to ensure the board has a full perspective of the character, reputation, and fitness of the applicant to hold a license, and any other pertinent information that would affect the applicant's ability to serve alcoholic beverages or create a conflict with public safety. I'm happy to answer any questions as part of that discussion.
So just a couple real quick. So like I said, we want to have the opportunity for the license owners to review this and comment. So we'll do that at the next meeting if that's okay. I guess my main thing, I do support this, and from the standpoint of Steve and the city staff, I like having the license owners be responsible for being updated, and instead of having the city staff spending all their time. But to me, the debate is the length of time before the notification and the amount of the fine. To me, those are some of the things that I think we should make sure we listen to everybody about. But from the city's staff standpoint, I'm concerned if we get too much. We've tried to do this now with some of the server training to make sure that the businesses themselves kind of police themselves. I don't know if you agree with that or if you think that's a good thing.
In terms of the server training,
No, in terms of the whole license and manager, I do. I think it's
Yeah.
important for the
Oh,
police and the city to know.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, okay, yes, I think, we're trying to encourage owners to basically police their operations in a sense, right? And to make sure that they've got good employees and that they're not, is that what your point? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know if I would say if policing themselves doesn't even seem like the right phrase here because like, they're in the business, they know who their employees are, they know when they're hiring. It kind of seems like it makes that step. They already should be keeping track of this paperwork, right? So I think it, kind of makes sense.
Administratively, they should be, readily available to them, absolutely.
Any other comments or questions? Go ahead.
I've got a quick comment. Maybe this would be for Steve. Could a bar owner list himself as the owner and the manager? Or are we looking for multiple contacts?
No, we have a number of facilities that the bar owner is the principal contact also.
Okay.
So
And then the other comment I have, it seems in our short time here, year and a half or whatever we've been, it seems like most of the problems we've had are corporations and like, nationally owned restaurants, et cetera. So, I do think we should crack down and have some type of a reliable contact, whether it's a principal of that corporation or some type of manager or an attorney. And I think we should be tough on that because we have had situations where you were trying to contact a corporate restaurant for several weeks. And that certainly doesn't seem right, and appreciate your vigilance on that. Got that straightened out finally, but, I agree with this. We should know who we're doing business with, so.
from the auditor's office standpoint, trying to track down, changes. Sometimes we find out ownership changes have occurred at these corporate levels. But certainly the local manager, we should have that information readily available. And for police to know who that person is that they're contacting that lives in the area, and is not somebody out of Philadelphia or something like that. I think it's very important. So.
Can I ask you a question, Steve? Do you think this will resolve the issue with, some of these are corporate chain restaurants where we have tough time identifying owners and managers? Do you think this will help with that?
I think at least it gives us some teeth, behind us in order to try to facilitate some of those changes. And the rollout part of it, I think, was what you were trying to address earlier. Is do we have enough time to adequately roll this out? At least that's what I was hearing. And certainly we wouldn't want to get out ahead of our skis. We'll want to make sure that we've got everything in place before we say this is what what it's going to be. So.
Just to say that I definitely am looking forward to hearing from the business owners about what's a reasonable amount of time to expect, this information about managers. My first thought was like, that this should make sense, I think, for business owners, because once you hire a new manager, train them up, 7 months later, you find out that, that we have to deny them for some reason. It doesn't seem to make sense. So, but what that window of time is, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing your thoughts.
And I think it's important to remember too, we're doing the background check on the manager they have listed when they get that license. And so that's what we're basing our decision on, right? So if there's a change in who that person is, I think that it's important to bring that back so that the board can say, yep, this person qualifies also.
Can you talk a little bit more about how this will be the responsibility? I guess my concern is that we're not having more staff time for this. Can you talk a little bit how this will be, the onus will be more on the license holder?
Yes, similar to server training, this is putting the onus or the burden on the license owner to let us know when these changes occur. On our end, it's going to obviously cause a little bit more work because we'll have more background checks to do, but in the end, we'll have better information. And that instead of the auditor's office trying to chase down who this contact is, and in some cases, we were unsuccessful getting a hold of some of these corporate chains where they have a local manager, and we weren't able to get a hold of them. And so that's been a very frustrating part for my staff.
Can I have just one more follow-up? So the other thing is, obviously, the first time through this would be a lot of, and so are we going to stagger that if is something like that possible?
Yeah, and that's part of the chief's proposal is that not only do we stagger that, but we stagger the license renewal also, so that we're, right now, April, May, and June are incredibly busy for our office as we try to make sure that, currently everybody is server trained. We've got all their information. They've attended the annual meeting. There's all these check boxes, and 90% of the businesses just take care of everything the way they should. But man, we spend a lot of time on 10%.
So once again, can you just, even though you might not have that completely detailed, but can you talk about how would that work if you stagger it? How will that go?
Well, and I think it is a little premature at this point to talk about that. We'll have to work that into our discussions on how that would happen.
Very good. So this is great discussion, but I hope that's okay. This is just a discussion today, and then for everybody, this will be on our next commission liquor control meeting agenda, and so we'll have opportunity for public comment, and obviously if it goes to the city commission, same thing.
Yep.
Did you have something you wanted to add, Steve?
No, this is just I think we had a brown bag last week on Thursday, and while these topics are still fresh, we want to bring them forward and kind of keep that momentum going, keep that ball moving. So.
Very good. So if that's okay, we'll just put this as a continue for our next liquor control meeting. And we will move on to number 5. And 5A is a request from New Monty's Incorporated, doing business as Twist, to change DBA to Marge's Diner. Steve.
We skipped one item.
I'm very sorry. Sorry about that. We skipped one.
4B.
Go ahead.
Yep. So 4B is also related to the brown bag that we had. One of the things that came up was a request. It kind of, partly from my staff and partly from the liquor board, was to try to see if there's a way to simplify some of the licenses. And we want to be directed by the city commission to do that. And so, a number of years ago, I did something or put together a presentation that would. It won't be totally smooth. There'll be some bumps along the way and some negotiation, but I would like to at least start that process of having, sending the city commission to direct the city attorney to amend those ordinances that need to be amended. And so for instance, the A and the Z license are the same. The only difference is that we've capped the A. We don't issue any more A's, but we issue Z's, but only as population grows. So the A and the Z license both are full alcohol licenses and don't require any food sales. Well, they're basically the same license. Can we just put them together, do some of that kind of stuff to simplify things and decrease some of the clutter in our ordinance with the, I don't know, is it 34, 36 different license classes? And I've got some ideas on, how we can make one class where it's a manufacturing class. And then you put your breweries, your wineries, your distilleries all into that one class. So anyway, like I said, it's very early in that discussion, and this would be a long-term project to get this done. It'll take a lot of collaboration, a lot of discussion, because there will be some points where the licenses aren't exactly the same, but can we still merge them and make a few changes so that we can kind of decrease the number of license classes that we have.
Any other comments or questions? I guess my comment real quick is I would urge you to be real careful because I've been on this for 13 years, and when I first came on, that was one of my things. We need to make this more simple, and so that's not, change is not always better, Steve.
Yeah.
And so that's my words of caution, because I think if we're going to make things better, that's great, but if we're just going to change stuff to change it, then you already know that. So, and the other thing I want to say to thank you, Steve, is you do a lot of work ahead of time to, like, changing these licenses so it fits the business better, that you do a lot of things for us ahead of time. And so thank you very much for doing that, because I think that makes it a better system. Any other comments?
Just to say that, I certainly understand we're not talking about a major overhaul or anything like that, but, maybe there's some common sense simplifications we can make, and I don't really see any harm in getting some ideas. So if we're just making a motion to get some recommendations, I think there's no harm there.
And any changes that we would come up with, we will obviously bring them back here. We'll have discussion with people in the industry, just to make sure that, sometimes I get a little, the blinders are on, and so to make sure that we've got full vision, to make sure that we're not doing something with unintended consequences, and to move forward in a thoughtful manner.
I've got a quick comment. And on the other side, I agree, Lydia, that there are things that could be, consolidated here, et cetera. But I also want to make the point that I think we have to be very careful and understand that the licenses that have equity, people where that's on their books, that's maybe their retirement or whatever, because their license has a market value. Because I have seen and heard over the years, nobody's as here as today, but I have heard commissioners in the past that are frustrated with that one of them's no longer here, but frustrated with the fact that people have licenses with market values. That's what they signed up for, that's what they bought, and that's an important part of that. I think we have to protect that.
I agree with that. And to kind of go off with Commissioner Pepcorn's comment too, is he's been here 13 years, and the licenses haven't decreased, they've increased, but every license that we've got, there's a story behind it and why we got it, And so if we can honor that story and yet still do something to make it a little easier for the next person that comes along to be able to, manage their way through the minefield of liquor licenses, then I think that'll be a good thing, so.
Any other comments? Otherwise, if we're ready for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And now to 5A, request for Monty's to change DBA to Marge's Diner. Steve.
Yeah, so if you remember, a few months ago, Twist closed, and then they requested extension of time to not use their license so they could come up with this concept. So I don't know if I can tell the story as well as Dan Herder can, but there's a down by Boiler Room, there's a little side space which is included in their liquor license, but then they kind of branded it a separate name, and they called it Marge's Bar, I think it is. And so this is kind of the takeoff to that. Now they're ready to, they built a following around Marge, and so they're ready to open up back in Twist, the old Monty's location. And so I was speaking to Dan last night at another function, and he said, we're really close to being able to open the doors. They've spent a lot of time, kind of making this look like it could be Marge's Diner. So I think it's going to be a really cool concept. Their plan is to be open, and I think it's I should look at Dan. Are you here? Is it breakfast through lunch? There you go, 8 to 4, Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, Saturday, Sunday. So they will not be participating in the evening activities that go on. It'll be a daytime thing. They will be able to use their liquor license for anybody that wants to use it in that capacity. He did also say that the space will be available then for private rental in the evening if somebody has an event or something like that. So fully support this.
So basically, did they have to do a new background check? Does this kind of tie into what we were talking about? How will that work?
Well, in our current structure, we don't do anything with the background check. It's the same owners. It's actually the same corporate name, just a different DBA name. So instead of doing business as Twist, it's going to be doing business as Marge's Diner. So currently, we don't require a background check on these where they've suspended the license for a time and now are going to reactivate it.
So I guess this does tie into what we just talked about, because technically, I mean, we don't know, obviously, it's the same ownership, but things might have changed as far as the manager, and so, anyway, I think this kind of ties in a little bit what we were just talking about, so that's my comment.
It does tie in. However, our ordinances currently don't support the requirement to do the background check.
Right. Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Kate.
So the managers from the adjoining business will be managing Marge's?
I guess I'm going to ask Dan to come up and address that. I'm not sure.
So I hope you'll look at this as an opportunity and not like we're trying to grill you, but we're just trying to get information. And this is an opportunity to kind of give us a summary, even though Steve did a great job, if you don't mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. So actually, when we renewed the license this last time, because we were closed, I listed myself as the manager because we didn't have a manager. So to your point, under the new system, yes, we would now take Mike, who is going to be our manager, and submit him. And then Jenny, who is our general manager at the boiler room, is kind of our regional manager over both of them. But she would have been renewed during that process anyway. But yeah, so right now I am listed as the manager on the business.
And I just want to say I appreciate you trying. Being an entrepreneur is a difficult position, and so thank you for what you do for downtown Fargo. I think it'll be a great addition, and so
Yep,
I
no
hope you
problem.
don't take this as we were trying to make things difficult. But I just for us to get a little better grasp. And I wish you success.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Do we have a motion?
So
moved.
second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And 5B is request from Drecker to establish licensed premises. Steve?
So Bruhala is getting closer and closer, inching closer and closer to being ready to open. And Mark Bjornson from Drecker submitted the floor plans for the new facility. And I just am presenting it to you for approval of what that licensed premise looks like. Just a comment there. If you look at that, there are a couple of sections in pink, especially the large boxes. Those large boxes will be event spaces. And so they're not holding it solely as part of the Drecker license premise. And because it's not part of their license premise, then they would be open to having somebody cater a license into that space. So, if somebody was going to have a wedding and they wanted to have somebody cater in food and alcohol, they could then have the full alcohol, full bar set up for like a wedding or a corporate event or something like that.
So can I ask, so obviously they can sell their own products?
Yes.
But then in this new part, then it'll be a separate area basically, or tell us how that will go.
Yeah, exactly. So, unless there's an event going on, that space will be closed off and, just sitting empty. But if there's an event going on, and the person that wants to rent that space wants to have a full bar set up, they can work with a caterer to bring that in, cater the food, cater the alcohol, that type of thing. There are also some smaller pink boxes that are in there, and those are they're a kiosk for another business that is going to, you'll be seeing that application next month, excuse me. And that application would be for them to be able to serve wine at that location.
So potentially there's going to be a mix of licenses in this building.
It's a little complicated.
Right.
Yeah. But, as I was explaining before the meeting, the breweries are licensed under, or they're regulated under the tax commissioner's office, whereas all of the other retail licenses are regulated under the attorney general's office. And so, you know, there are some differences, some nuances in what, you know, what can be done in a brewery versus, you know, a different setup.
I guess it's going to be complicated, but the main message you have to get across is you have to do server training for everybody in all those places. I think that's the main message, and I do think it's going to be a little bit difficult. Let's say for police, if you had a enforcement issue, it's just going to be very complicated because there's multiple licenses and multiple owners and so. But I think we knew that going in. It's going to be a unique building and unique market for our area too. So. Any other comments or questions? I apologize for talking so much, but it's a good thing, but I just think it's more complicated when you start actually opening up the business, which is that's kind of what we thought. Any other, Steve, from your perspective, are there any other things you want to talk about it?
No, not really. I think that's it.
Any other comments or questions about it? Yes, go ahead, Bob.
I guess just to be clear, the beer part of it, the brewery part of it, there will be no wine or spirits served in that.
So there is an application pending that will come to you next month that would be for wine service, and that would be in the small shaded pink areas. That would be their licensed premise for that applicant. Does that answer your question?
I guess, I mean, I wonder if that pierces the spirit of the law, that a wall will change the rules that they're under to say, well, maybe it's a different ownership. I don't know. But to me, that's a little bit complicated.
Yes, it is a different ownership. It's a different, the space is being leased, I guess, you'd say. So it's, you know, whereas Drecker owns the primary space, those small pink areas are being leased separately.
So separate license, separate manager.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and then would they be able to do like Fargo Brewing and have special events where they bring in spirits?
And that's the purpose of the large pink boxes that you see. Those are for catered events.
Okay. All right, well, I mean, I think that's a discussion in the future too, was that the spirit, you know, it's one thing if you're having a wedding, it's another thing to have a, you know, rock concert every Saturday night and compete with the nightclub business that's already exists.
Sure.
So I think that's something we'll have to discuss some more.
That's a good point. Any other comments or questions? So what are you looking for us? What action for today, Steve?
If you would either, you know, make a motion to approve or to accept the license premise that have been presented.
Any other comment? If we're ready for a motion, that's good. And I guess if you don't mind me asking one more question before the motion, but so then we'll have to go through with these others as time goes by. And I guess I do agree with Bob that we have to be very careful that, you know, the concept was we're expanding Drecker. Well, now they're going to have, and I totally agree, it's a different marketing concept, but it isn't just going to be Drecker products. It's going to be, it's a different situation. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do, yes.
The original concept was we're expanding Drecker Brewery, which was great, but now it's changed into something a little bit different. So.
And the representatives from Drecker are here. They probably could speak more fluently about this than I am able to, if they want to get up and make some comments.
If you want to, otherwise, does anybody else have any questions or comments? Otherwise, if we're ready for a motion, we can do that too. I'm very flexible today. It's my birthday, so nothing's going to ruin my.
Just to, can I confirm that there's 5 pink zones here? Are we anticipating 5 additional permit?
No, actually, and I apologize for not getting a more updated map here. So we have the 2 large boxes that are event spaces. And then the others, it's all one ownership. And so I do have a map that you're going to see when that application comes forward, that was updated, and that map connects all of those spaces. So it's just one additional license that will be brought on here instead of those three small pink areas.
So one owner for these 3 areas.
Correct.
And those are all kiosks.
They're kiosks, and their license premise will connect all 3 of them, those on this box. Sorry, I didn't get the map updated for you.
No, and I do have to add, I do think we have to proceed with caution because we've dealt with bars that ended up going far further than we originally had envisioned. And so we've, as our city attorney can testify, we've had legal issues with something that grew into something that was not what our original vision was. Do you know what I mean? And so that's my concern. I think it's a great project. It's a great business. But this is not what the original, back in the day. So go ahead, Kate.
So all of these pink boxes are special event spaces.
So the 2 large pink
The 2
boxes
large
are special event.
So that would mean then that there wouldn't be alcohol available every day. It's only when there's an event there.
Correct.
And so what about the 3 smaller ones?
Those, they will be connected, so they are one, okay? And then they would be operating every day of the week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark, introduce yourself.
So my name is Mark Bjornstedt. I'm president of Drecker Brewing Company. I just want to offer the opportunity to answer any questions because I think some of your comments are a little concerning there, Commissioner. We presented this concept 2 years ago, and this is 100% what we presented. There has been no changes in concept, in who the vendors would be. These vendors have been in this partnership since that time. So this is what we've talked with the city guys for a long time, and it's a unique concept, and I understand it's complicated, but when you see what we're talking about here, it's not multiple different concepts all under one ownership. These are different businesses working in a new way that's quite a new growing trend in the service industry where it's under one common community space roof. So there's nothing truly different in the liquor license aspect. Each one of these are individually licensed spaces operating as if they were individual restaurants. We just share common space, community space, and becomes a flexible area that can be used for multiple different things. And then also I want to point out too that this is already on Drecker's licensed premises. This is built into what we've already licensed. We're actually just relinquishing part of our licensed premises as it is. So that's really the request that we have here is to update our licensed premises and actually just give it back. It's already been approved premises.
So Mark, can I ask you a question? So then, like a hypothetical is, somebody wants to have a wedding reception there, but they have full liquor service, then that's handled by a different group than you. Is that correct?
Different group, totally different license, different ownership. I mean, legally, as a brewery, we cannot have any ownership in part in any kind of another liquor license. So those are separate businesses. It's our main focus to be working with local Fargo businesses, building a community that supports Fargo and furthers our businesses, furthers the people that enjoy this community. And so that's what we're looking to do with these other businesses in that partnership.
Okay, just to follow up, if you don't mind, but let's say something happened where the police are called and they want to know who is the contact. I guess that's my concern. That's my question. Is it Drecker that's going to be responsible, or the other, or that's my thing. It gets to be a little confusing to me.
Yeah, I mean, this comes down to, I think the best example of this is the insurance industry. I mean, they're the ones that are going to decide actual liability that goes into this, and there's no way for Drecker to shirk its total responsibility of that entire space. So, I mean, that's the way this place is insured. We're not assuming that really anyone else shares liability with it. I can promise you that our insurance policies are robust and thorough for all of this.
Okay, one more, and then I'll quit asking dumb questions. But Steve, so what kind of license then will they have to have if they want to have a full license, have someone come in? Can you talk about that?
If they want to come in with a full license?
Well, right now, Drecker does not have a liquor license.
Correct.
And so what would the process be if let's say that they have a wedding dance and they want to have full liquor service, what would that be?
So we actually do a lot of catering licenses. We call them e-permits, event permits. Our office probably issues look at Michelle, probably 300-400 of those a year. And so they're very common. And so it's anybody with a license that's allowed to do that. So typically you're going to see somebody with an FA, an A, something like that, that applies for that permit. It's a $25 permit plus $10 per day. And they can do multiple days if it's a, 3-day event or something like that. And then we do have a late fee charged. If they apply late, there's a $25 late penalty. We take that e-permit and we route it to the departments that should know that there's an event going on, including police, fire, building inspections, health departments. So we've kind of got a pretty robust system for distributing that information. One other comment with Mark and his liquor license is, his primary focus is production of alcohol, production of beer, right? And I think you're in 29 states now, Mark. Is that correct? Am I off by one?
I can't keep track of it now, but it's close to that.
Yeah. So I can readily assure you that he's not going to do anything to jeopardize his being licensed to do this, to run his facility. So, I think this is just another concept that probably is a little ahead of City of Fargo's thinking, but I fully support it, and I think it's a great idea. If we want to continue to grow and to be that place, that place that the Wall Street Journal notices and the New York Times notices, I think these are the kind of things that we need to do.
But to summarize it, basically, let's say once again, if somebody had a wedding at their, they would have to get an e-license.
Yep.
That's to summarize it. That would be how the problem would be handled. So then that's something that we do on a regular basis.
Very regular. And in fact, I had a discussion too with Mark as this time was approaching, and just kind of more of a general question for me, but are they going to have a select caterer? And he indicated yes, they're going to primarily have one person that they reach out to, and he was able to elaborate the reasons why. They can set their expectations, and that caterer has to meet them, and then they don't have to reset those expectations with 6 other people that the bride and the groom want. So and then the catering kitchen too, to have it set up so that one company is using it the way they want to use it. And there are a number of other reasons, but so they've already pre-selected who that person's going to be, and we look forward to that being a successful partnership.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Nope, I was going to call the question.
Oh, very good. If we're ready for the motion,
Move to approve?
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any other? Thank you, Mark. I apologize for all the questions, but I appreciate you coming up. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Very good. And C, Summit.
We're not just not even discuss it. Okay. Okay. Nancy would like a short recess.
Absolutely.
What was this?
So is the recess over, Steve?
The recess is over.
Okay. That was fast.
Nobody took a nap.
Okay.
So under advisement of our city attorney, since this was a non-agenda item, we would like to bring this item that I wanted to add to the agenda. We'll bring it up at the next meeting. Okay?
Anything else to cover?
I think that's thorough enough for today.
Very good.
I'd like to make a motion that everybody sings Dave happy
No,
birthday.
no,
but
no.
we've already did. So.
That's it. We're adjourned. Thanks. Have a great day.